He went on to say, quote, "I want gymnastics to be like track and field and sailing. No human touch. It's only calculated by AI computer," end quote.
Don't bring sailing into this.
Remember, this show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two.
Norbert's is having a sale. Swing into spring. 10% off bar pads, all the bar pads. Go to norberts.com for a 10% discount on anything with the code GymCastic. Norbert's is also giving away a $50 Norbert's gift card that can be used in anything in their online store. No minimum. Just follow Norbert's Athletic on Instagram and comment on their giveaway post. Today, robot judges for Worlds? Piercing controversy on NCAA. Nagorny has been sanctioned for mass abduction. That's a normal thing to happen in gymnastics. Aimee Boorman is rescuing another country from disaster. And did you catch the gymnast thanked in the Oscar speeches last night? We're going to tell you all about it. It is March 3rd, 2025, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. And let's begin with what I'm doing this week. So,
will you? Let's begin with me.
The most important news, if you're going to be in Boston and you already have a ticket, because I think it's sold out, I was asked to put together a panel for the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. It's called Gymnastics Rebalancing Act, AI Judging Analytics and Economics, and it will be with Li Young from USA Gymnastics President, Brody Malone, Josh Dixon, and Mohini Bhardwaj, and we're going to talk all about the thing. So if you are a listener and you're going to that, say hi. I'll be in Boston all weekend because I'm going to go to everything, and I'm so excited about it, you guys. Obviously, I will be wearing my purple blazer, so you'll recognize me from afar. This also will be available, I think, 2 weeks after the conference. If you're not able to get a ticket, I think they put the panels up online. So we'll let you guys know. All right. Spencer, tell us about Nikita Nagorny. Everything's going fine for him.
So everything's going fine for him. So Nikita Nagorny was sanctioned by the EU saying that he was involved in the mass abduction, illegal deportation, and forced transfer of Ukrainian children from the occupied territories of Ukraine to Russia. And now he is subject to an asset freeze and a travel ban for any EU territories. And Jessica, do you want to explain why this is considered in the child trafficking realm?
Yeah, I actually looked this up because I was like, why aren't they saying trafficking for this? Because this is what it is. So it's not actually stated that way in this story or by the EU sanction, but the International Criminal Court, the ICC, they established that this is a crime against humanity. It is under war crimes, the forcible transfer of a population, including children, and that can include psychological exploitation and propaganda. And that's what's happening. Like, they're abducting these kids from Ukraine, and then they are, we have seen the videos on the news of gymnasts, the Russian gymnasts, going to visit these poor kids who the Russian propaganda is saying that they were being, tortured in Ukraine, when actually they have just been kidnapped from their country and taken away from their parents. So they are being exploited in that they're being used for propaganda. Russian officials claim that 700,000 Ukrainian children have been brought into Russia since the full-scale invasion began. Ukrainian authorities have documented over 19,000 cases of children being abducted by Russian forces since 2022. So,
in other news, positive news coming out of negative news, we have Aimee Boorman, who is now going to, at least temporarily, coach at the Stuttgart National Training Center for the German women's national team. That's where German national champion Helen Kevrich currently trains.
Yep, the all-around champion. Her coach, Giacomo Camiotti from Italy, was suspended. And there are two excellent investigative journalism pieces by Sandra Schmidt, one in the Zeit and one in the Frankfurter, that cover the investigations that they did. And I'm going to just go over some of it. And I want to mention that we will talk about eating disorders. So if that's a trigger for you, fast forward about 2 minutes. So one of the quotes about Giacomo is that he said, if you don't make it, I will kill you. Gymnast said that he constantly said this to them in Stuttgart, and they say that they know what he meant. He meant, I will humiliate you. This is quote, I will humiliate you. I will put you down. I will make you small. I will make sure that you have no opinion, that you blindly obey me. That's end quote from the gymnast explaining what he means by that. So she is coming in to replace him. Elizabeth Seitz, genius of bars and longtime lead gymnast for Germany. She also made allegations against her former coach, Claudia Schunk. She told Schunk that she didn't have the strength to do her skills anymore, but Schunk sent her to bars anyway. She did a skill on bars and hit her face on the bar, which caused her to bite through her lip. So after that, she moved to Stuttgart to train and get away from Schunk. The thing that I really appreciate about these investigations is that they looked at accounts, doctor's notes, messages, text messages, photos, diary entries. They talked to parents, to physical therapists, and to other coaches to validate the claims of the athletes' parents and physical therapists in this case. So one of the stories focuses a lot on Ulla Koch, who was the national team coach. And then this last Olympics for Paris, remember, she was sent to Belgium when they had their national team abuse crisis, and then she was sent in to coach there. One of the stories is about Berger. Remember her from 2012 Olympics? She was a good vaulter. Yeah, so she in London, some of these stories are nuts, you guys. Like, I can't even, but there's a lot of stuff that we've heard before. I mean, a lot of it will not be surprising if you follow gymnastics or any elite sports like this. That she said they were weighed in at national team camps. They were sorted then by lineup in the gym. You are the bad or good side of weights. And this was all in front of everyone. She said that she started skipping breakfast because she was going to be weighed in. That Koch told her that in London, she would have medaled if she had been lighter. Also, there's a letter from Janine's training center that says she lost her stipend due to, quote, training attitude and with your eating behavior as long as your weight does not correspond to the agreed measure. The physical therapist for Janine also confirmed this, that Koch was constantly talking to the gymnast about weight. Janine started having bulimia after this and said that she would make herself throw up to 7 times a day. Koch did respond to this story. She said that the letter from the training center was inappropriate and that hurtful speeches were not appropriate. She would, quote, not do all this the same way today. She said, quote, I'm sorry if I put gymnasts in such distress that they got into an eating disorder. I didn't often think about how I could have hurt them with it. Another gymnast, this story, I couldn't even with this. She says that she overheard a coach talking to her parents while she was changing, and they said, we'd love to keep training her, but she's overweight. How old do you think she was at the time, Spencer?
A newborn.
Close. She was 6 years old. She had an eating disorder by the time she was 10. There's a lot of stories about training, pain being ignored, people training on fractures, herniated discs. There's stories of doctors casting injuries, the stuff we've heard before, because they know that the gymnast and the coach will train on it anyway if they don't put her in a cast. This is something we hear really often. And I just remind everybody, like, this story from Janine, this is 2012 Olympics. I mean, this is not 1970, 1980. Everyone's well aware of the dangers of talking to anyone about their weight. So this is a big issue. It happens all over, and it was happening here too at the same time. And we know this still goes on because did you see Luisa Blanco's post recently that she said she was weighed? Hopefully Aimee can make an impact, but if you have, parents who knew about these things and were allowing it to happen, then it is, there's a long road to change. Before we get to the piercing controversy, Spencer,
okay.
Should we tell people what's happening this week?
Yes. So I am doing the now typical watch party chat on Fridays for the NCAA Gymnastics on Friday nights. So we're going to start that again at 4 p.m. Pacific time this Friday, which is March 7th. And then we will go right into College and Cocktails, sans Jessica. A brave new world.
special guest because
With
I'm going to
special
be
guests
gone
instead. And that'll be following the Oklahoma against Michigan meet.
at 7 p.m. Pacific. And if you want to just add these to your calendar so you don't ever forget about them, you can do that. There's a link in the show notes, so you can just add it to your Android or Google Calendar. Fantasy update. So, we have the Fantasy Gymnastics Update podcast every week where we tell you the steals, the deals, what to do. We remind you, hey, reset your lineups because the pricing changes. Otherwise, you're going to get all zeros.
I would like to say that no one told me that Jade would not be competing last weekend, and it ruined my entire team. And I blame Jessica.
Sorry. This is why you should be on Blue Sky, because that's where Jade talked about it.
God.
Just saying. Blue Sky.
I roll my eyes enough in general.
It's like old Twitter before the Nazi oligarch. So this, honestly, if you want to, Jade is telling you, she's trying to incentivize you to move over to the other platform. So this week, lineups lock Wednesday, you guys, not Friday, not Thursday, Wednesday, March 5th at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. You guys just set your lineups by Tuesday, or you'll be like me when I thought I had done it and I hadn't put a finish in time, and then none of my stuff transferred over. So I'm going to be in 2 millionth place. So yeah, and last
I'm sure you're not alone.
I'm sure I'm not, because I've seen some of the carnage already. So yeah, if you didn't set your lineup last week, there was all zeros for the reset. So you're in good company. That's all I'm saying. All right, you guys. So, piercing controversy. Let's talk about what happened. We talked about this a lot on College and Cocktails on Friday night.
This is the kind of story that we live for.
I love this.
I mean, is it a controversy? Are we overstating it by saying it's a controversy? It's a controversy to us.
It's a I reached out to Missouri to ask for confirmation about it, and I haven't heard back from them yet, but hopefully we will get more specifics on it. Breaking news, Shannon Welker, head coach of Missouri, got back to me just in time. Quote, "The meet ref told me that one of the judges noticed one of our gymnasts had a hoop earring. So we had someone check all the ears. No one had any hoops. I thought maybe they mistook one of our team managers for gymnasts as they had hoop earrings. Then I thought we should check for any nose rings, which we did spot one and had her remove it. So I put the hoop nose ring in my pocket, standard duty for any head coach, smiley face, just in case that was our culprit. Thanks, Shannon, for clearing up what happened." Spencer.
The information we got from the meet broadcast was that a gymnast from Missouri had received a jewelry warning. Not a deduction, but a warning for violations of the jewelry rules in NCAA gymnastics, which basically say you can wear earrings, but they have to be stud earrings.
Yeah. And I mean, to say in general, things that dangle in sports can be ripped out. And, that might be fine for you. You might be like, I don't care if this gets ripped out of my face, then go for it. But these are the rules. So the thing is that this season we have seen lip piercings, eyebrow piercings, septum piercings, the one like underneath your nose, ear cartilage piercings. That's the other thing, which are like very common. But the eyebrow was a big deal this year. I was like, oh, we haven't seen that before. But we don't know of anyone else getting a jewelry deduction. Or a jewelry warning. No one's gotten a deduction.
It's
just
a deduction
warning.
if you don't do anything about it after you get the warning.
Right. So,
I mean, the whole thing is basically the sentiment is you should only have rules like these if you can prove that there is a safety reason to it. If you're just, I don't think it looks classy, then that's not a thing.
Yeah. Right. It's like everyone needs to be getting this warning. It can't just be you decided because you don't like the way this lip piercing looks or this eyebrow piercing.
Because what a slippery slope that would be if we started making rules against everything that you didn't like the way it looked that a college gymnast was doing stylistically.
There would be 1,000-page code full of photo examples. Broken wrist salutes. No. That's a deduction immediately. No warning.
The most important thing. Because that is, actual artistry. That's not just like, taste level.
Also, you put enough strain on your wrist. Stop breaking them by putting them at a 90-degree angle when you salute like you're a little duck. It's, just for your own safety. So I just have to say, we've talked many, 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 many times about the policing of women's bodies in women's gymnastics. There's rules about if your bra can show and how far your leotard can come down in the front, because God forbid anyone sees any bit of cleavage because women have breasts. Oh my God, we can't see that in sports. All of this stuff. And just a gentle reminder, and by gentle, I mean screaming in red flashing lights.
Have you ever done a gentle reminder?
I have tried, but it never comes across that way, Spencer. It's just not what I was born to do.
No.
There are no rules policing the men's bodies in their code. Nope. They should have a rule now about make sure your pants stay up while you do gymnastics. Tie the string that holds your pants up, but that wasn't even added after the many deep pantsing disasters in men's gymnastics. So once again, we oppose this. If you want to rip all the things out when you are sliding and fall over and your earring gets stuck to the carpet, like that's fine. You live your life. That's okay. You take the risk. Fashion, it comes with a price. So anyway, that's where we stand on this.
On the piercing controversy.
Yeah, we stand on
7 exclamation points.
Like, nobody cares. So my question for you is, Jordan Childs, she doesn't need it's Jordan with an A.
Well, there are other
Y,
Jordans.
right? Not
you
Y.
talking about Jordan Weaver,
right? Not Lebanon spelling. Jordan of the Americas of the basketball spelling. That's who she's named after. Jordan. What's his name?
Michael Jordan.
Basketball's Michael. Thank you. So she has a new grill, a diamond grill, that the kind you put in your mouth, not the kind that you cook food on. And it says that girl. So my question for you now is,
should it have said that grill instead? Yes, it should have. Because wordplay.
Will she wear it during competition?
I don't think she will wear it, during a routine or during the meet.
During a routine.
Because I feel like that's a post-floor celebration kind of thing.
During a routine. Because if you just wear it during the meet, it doesn't matter. It's if you actually compete with it.
We'll wait for a rule about it.
I know.
She's like, I would like a rule. I don't have a skill named after me in the Code of Points, but what if I got a rule named after me in the Code of Points?
Okay.
A la Selena Van Herner.
Yes. The grill rule. Also, you guys, I would just like to point out that chewing gum or eating or having anything in your mouth in general that is small enough to be swallowed, a grill, it would be very hard to swallow. I mean, I guess you could if you tried, but it's fitted into your teeth, But, chewing gum has become rampant, which means I've seen 2 people do it in college gymnastics, which I chew your gum, it's totally fine, but could you just take it out real quick when you do your routine and then you can just, put it right back in if you want to. But there's no rule about that. There's nothing in the code that says you can't be eating things while you do your routine or chewing on things. That is actually life-threatening because you can choke on it. So you never think you're going to choke on your gum until you peel off the bar and slam yourself down, and all of a sudden your gum goes down your throat. And then someone has to do the Heimlich, and it's a whole thing. So I'm just saying, please don't chew while you just stick it behind your ear. That's what people used to do back in the day. Inside of your leotard, I don't know, something. Have the great
Have
teammate.
a team manager, someone who medically retired, be on gum duty.
Just
what a fun job.
Right. You hold your hands out so it can be spit into them.
Club Gym Nerd, you get discounts and first dibs on live show tickets, an extra whole podcast every week, athlete dossiers for major competitions, code guides, options to commission your own segments. It also makes a great gift. Check it out at gymcastic.com at the Join the Club tab.
Okay, so the other thing, did you watch the Oscars?
I did.
And did you notice a gymnast being mentioned? Did you catch it? This is because you have all these years I have told you about Kennady Schneider and you don't listen to me, Spencer. Over and over, I told you when Kennady Schneider was in the Super Bowl performing last year. Kennady Schneider is an artist and she was a gymnast at University of Arizona. That is the Murder Piggies, Arizona, not the Hot Devils, Arizona. These are important things to point out
Or
to
you could just
people.
say the University of Arizona, which is the name of the school.
It's the Arizona where it snows, that Arizona. And she's an artist. And after and I remember she came up on my radar, not just for her beautiful gymnastics, but then like the artwork that she was doing. And then she went to UCLA, did a master's program there in art as well. And then she is a pole dancer, and she's really good. It's just beautiful. It's like absolute art what she does. But anyway, so the Best Actress award went to Mikey Madsen for Honora, and she thanked Kennady in her speech. Kennady helped
Schneider, thank you to our incredible consultants. I also just want to again recognize and honor the sex worker community. I will continue to support and be an ally. All of the incredible people, the women that I've had the privilege of meeting from that community has been one of the highlights of this entire incredible experience. Also, thank you to Kennady Schneider. Thank you to our incredible.
Yeah. So she thanked her, and I was like, Kennady Schneider. And then Kennady put this up on her, because I was like, the pole dancing artist, Kennady Schneider, gymnast. And sure enough, it was her. So I knew she was special. And there she is being mentioned at the Oscars as
You're going to claim this one as your own too? I called it like Lori Hernandez Olympics situation.
I'm just saying I recognized her artistic greatness. And she said she was just really happy to be recognized for her art, not just her body. And I think not just what her body could do. And I've just appreciated her work. So it was really cool to see her getting that recognition. Some other Gymternet news. Very exciting.
Help me.
Okay, you know how Brie Clark has had a Biles forever?
Mm-hmm.
Then we were waiting for her to do it in college. She didn't do it at Utah State. Then she was part of that team zero that went to Clemson and transferred.
Zero team makes it seem like you're like, this team is a zero.
It's
but that's
the team
what Clemson called their group that they had the year before they actually started competing.
Yeah, so they knew they weren't going to be able to compete, but they went to Clemson anyway and helped build this incredible program that they have now that has like such an amazing fan base. And so she finally competed the Biles. So it's the first Biles ever competed in college. And so we're going to shout out to Brie Clark. So happy for you. And like, this is another thing like Clemson. They were ready for
the Biles one, by the way, the AA half.
Yeah. Also, I just am so impressed with Clemson because they already had all the fanfare ready. They had the t-shirts ready. They had like the packages ready for media. Like this made, like what the ESPN top whatevers. It's so great. So congratulations to Brie. And again, Clemson on all the success of that program. Let's talk about robot judging.
I would love to talk about robot judging.
Okay. So Watanabe, FIG president Watanabe, who is running for IOC president, he did a presser. And he said in this presser, because he was asked about the judging fairness, and he said about robot judging that we need more transparent judging, we need better judging. And then he was talking about Worlds in Jakarta and said, so I think we will see. And I was like, so I'm asking for clarification on this, but we know that the Fujitsu AI robot judging system, which is a bunch of cameras and computers, it's not actual robots. Unfortunately, you guys, that's such a better way to sell the product, but they haven't done that yet. Anywho, we know that the system can do D and E score, but it has not been implemented. So as far as we know, it has only been implemented when there is an inquiry if the judges want to use it, but not necessarily. So he went on to say, quote, I want gymnastics to be like track and field and sailing. No human touch. It's only calculated by AI computer, end quote.
Don't bring sailing into this.
How dare you mention sailing? My God.
So basically, he said that people all have different views as an art, which are informed by their own culture, which is necessarily regional, local, and personal. But the judging of sports has to be universal, according to the criteria in the rules, and should not be subject to the influences of people's backgrounds and beliefs. Here is where technology can play an important neutral role.
And so this is where I feel like, we've talked about how figure skating changed their whole judging system after their cheating scandal at the Salt Lake Olympics. And they have a system where you see the scores on the screen in real time. You can see where someone is compared to whoever is in the lead in real time. And then if there's basically an inquiry, which is the judge does their own inquiry. Well, they'll say, this is a triple back or whatever they do in ice skating.
Yeah, they do triple backs.
Triple backs, Lutz. And they'll say, that's a 3, but I'm going to watch the replay. A little thing goes up that's like, boop, that'll be rewatched by the D-score judge after. So it builds the excitement where you're like, the judge said they have to rewatch it. Oh my God, is it going to get credit? But gymnastics does not have that. Why? I don't know. Also, the thing about figure skating is they did not lose the artistry, whereas gymnastics went in this direction where we're like, we have to be super fair, we have to have D-score, and then artistry just went completely down the toilet, and now the code is trying to crawl its way out of the trash can dumpster that is just doing flips and not actually learning dance or knowing what art is or how to involve all the body parts. And we're just now getting floor routines that actually have dance in them back again. So the thing I don't like about what he's saying about, art and cultural views and how things are informed is figure skating has a way to reward this, and gymnastics only has a way to deduct for it with the artistry checklist. I want, the example, if robot judges were judging the Tokyo Olympics on floor, Jade Carey versus Vanessa Ferrari, do you think? I think we would have had the same outcome, which is that Jade Carey still would have won. And this is not about her as a human being. Her artistry has improved so much. Just love Jade Carey. But her artistry compared to Vanessa Ferrari, it's like finger painting compared to opera. So
some people love some finger painting.
Finger painting is beautiful. You can very much enjoy it. I'm sure there's an amazing finger painter who's redone the Mona Lisa with their fingers, and they're going to send it into our email now. But I'm trying to exaggerate for a point. So I want there to be a way to just be overall, in figure skating, you can just be a boop plus, but that was art. Can the AI do that? He's saying he wants to take it away.
Yeah. I think that what I want is more. He just said we need to be more transparent, and I would like more information about how it's used. What is its responsibility? What is, the system's responsibilities? What are the human judges' responsibilities? If you're going to use it at Worlds this year, you kind of need to tell people in advance. It can't be a secret until this is actually, by the way, this is how we're judging Worlds now that you got here. You need to, people need to be prepared for it, know what the system is looking for, what humans are going to be in charge of, all of that stuff.
Yep. I think also, I would like to, in figure skating, another example, you're talking about transparency, they publish all the scores, and the protocols. We don't have that. And you shouldn't have to
final scores. Yeah.
Right. You shouldn't have to approach the judges afterwards as a gymnast on the floor to ask for them. It should all just be published.
And artistry, as we've always felt that artistry scoring should be separate and noted separately the way neutral deductions are. This is, if you have dedicated judges who are just giving an artistic evaluation while the robot judging system is doing D-score, that's very interesting to me.
Yeah. And it can do E-score, but how about we have it do D and E, and then we have a separate artistic judging panel? I would like that. So we'll try to get a comment from the FIG and find out specifically what the plan is and how we know in advance. It would be cool to see, here's everything published, here's what Fujitsu got, and here's what the human judges got, and like line them up and compare.
Which I thought we were supposed to be doing like years ago when Fujitsu
Mhm.
was there, but the judges were actually in charge of the scores, and then it kind of...
There's always been a veil over what
Mhm.
Fujitsu is actually collecting and doing, even though you can just walk behind wherever they are and see all of it going on and see what they're doing and see it capturing all the data. But we've asked many questions to Fujitsu over the years and many specifics, and we have never really pinned down exactly what the plan is. And I understand that maybe they want they want a consensus within gymnastics on, hey, this is a good idea, let's do this. But also they have to reassure all these judges, like, we're not replacing your jobs with robots. But welcome to the AI future. That's what's going to happen. Okay, will you tell people what there was more said in this that I thought was pretty interesting, what Watanabe said about the war in Ukraine and why he was, and he had some interesting political commentary, I think, in this.
Yeah, so this is what he said about, he said, we knew the result of the meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky. I don't know what everyone thought, but I became very worried about the Ukraine gymnasts because I always say that I am the father of gymnastics and my gymnasts are my sons and my daughters. People are worried about their future by the current situation. I think people should be here for people during difficult times, so that's why I changed my schedule and I am here.
He was supposed to be in Germany. Instead, he switched and went to Ukraine and was in Kiev. He was in a rhythmic gym, when he was doing this presser. About trans athletes, he said specifically that human rights are important and that decisions must be taken on the basis of medical evidence. So he was very upfront. And I think this is what you have to talk. If you're an IOC, you want to be IOC president, you better be able to talk about all the subjects. Okay, let's take a little break from that discussion and talk about hair, shall we?
Yeah. You know,
I'd
we
make
do
you-
like deep news piercings, deep news hair. This is how it works.
This is what makes gymnastics our favorite sport. Aimee Mayhew at Cal, her teammate braided bear into her head, the bottom of her head. Bears. Not just bear,
Yeah.
bears. Because
Yeah.
there's many bears. They are some kind of bear at Cal. Yeah, that's extremely impressive hair braiding skills. This is furthering the art. If Spencer,
Raising the bar for everyone else's hair.
If this was the FIG, would they make a rule about not having words into your hair?
Yeah, probably. Because they hate everything, right?
Would they only make it if it said like no boar, but bears is okay? Or like USA is okay? Or
I feel like they would be worried about political statements being made. So even if it just said like USA, they would be like, you can't do that. It has to be a patch on your sleeve, not in your hair. What if you braided in I Love Donatella?
They would definitely allow it. But if you put piercings in it, that's when you dangled things.
And if it's in cat makeup, then no.
No, absolutely not. Did you see that the Air Force posted on Instagram that they were made to take a Instagram post down?
I did see this.
So I reached out to the Air Force and asked them for a statement, and this is what we got back from an Air Force spokesperson. Can you read the statement?
In response to President Trump's executive orders and Secretary Hegseth's priorities, all military departments received guidance from the Department of Defense to review and remove DoD news and feature articles, photos, videos, and social media posts that promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Other commands are also posting similar messages. We expect to complete the majority of the review by March 5th. Which I feel like emphasizes the preposterousness and stupidity of this in terms of a statement pretty well. Because, when you're asked to remove things that, promote equity, How dare you?
And you know how if you're someone that's like, I believe in the dream of America, and like my, grandfather fought in World War II against the Nazis, and my grandmother had to, work in a factory making bombs and put dinner on the table, like my family, for example. And you might really believe that, diversity, equity, inclusion is very important because it includes your great grandfather who lost his whole arm in a war. And it also includes women who were so important to keep the country running, and also the women that were in the military. And you might remember the Tuskegee Airmen who were essential to winning the war against the Nazis, but were segregated in their own home country of the United States, but were so needed to win the war. Or you might think of the code talkers who used Navajo so that they could communicate in a way that they had a code, the Navajo language, that couldn't be broken by anyone else because there are so few people here in the United States that spoke it. And you might have pride in your country and wanted to have joined the Air Force because you feel like this represents what my ancestors and what my grandmother and grandfather fought for against the Nazis. And we didn't want to be a part of a society that didn't value these things and murdered people for their differences. We are a country who embraces it. And then you join the Air Force and you're enjoying being on the gymnastics team. And then your celebration of insert whatever their Instagram post was about, women, Black History Month, pride, etc. And it's taken down because of the new president doesn't want any of that celebrated at all. And you're sacrificing your life. You're volunteering to sacrifice your life being in the military. And then that happens. That's the state of the United States right now, you guys. That's what's happening. In exciting gymnastics skill news, did you see the split leg full out?
No. You ask me these questions like I'm on social media. You have to tell me about it. I'm not interested in anything.
You need to go to the Instagrams all the time because everyone's posting their crazy skills there, and I need you to enjoy them as much as I am enjoying them.
A split leg full out is what you're telling me.
Yes, a split leg full out,
Uh-huh.
and it's so freaking cool. And I think this is at the Disney, the one that's in, it's like the Disney drawn, it's like a drawing show, and it's a static show in Florida. Split leg full out. So it's a double layout, split on the first one.
To go onto some chairs in a way that's very upsetting to me.
He literally leaves the stage and is off and slaps a jacket that's on a stair. Yes, it is very terrifying. But that's the circus for you. But that show has really amazing tumblers. I don't know what it's called, but the stage one in Florida, like what's the downtown Disney? It's like the mall place, but they have that like Cirque show there. It used to be a Cirque show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Okay, it's like a shopping area by Disney. Okay, the USAG assignments came out after Winter Cup. Who's going where?
Okay, so Jayla Hang and Claire Pease were assigned to the World Cup that's happening in Tokyo, and Ashley Sullivan, Simone Rose, and Nola Matthews are going to the Mixed Cup in Germany. So it's a big competition in Germany. The US men are sending a whole team. There's a team part of the competition, and then there's a mixed cup with men's and women's gymnasts competing together, and the US is sending women for the mixed cup, which they've done also in the past. What I'm happy about in terms of these assignments and delving into them is that you can see discernible decision making, which is a low bar, but in a way we hadn't necessarily seen in previous eras. Like Claire Pease, for instance, had a couple misses, or one miss, a fall at Winter Cup, and then a classic Winter Cup fall worth of out of bounds because it was February, and the out of bounds lines don't count in February. She finished 10th all around. And so if you were going by the all around standings, she would not have received an international assignment or been part of this group. But if you are trying to identify talent, look at who has the most potential, look at who has the highest scoring potential, is maybe in contention for worlds, at least in some way, you would identify Claire Pease in the top of that conversation. So she's someone you want to give experience to, cultivate that talent. And so it's nice to see decisions being made in terms of, maybe that will upset some people because that's also the job, but that will, identify the best gymnasts to go to a particular assignment. Like I look at Claire Pease and Jayla Hang going to the World Cup. Well, they both have Yurchenko double fulls and a second vault. So it makes sense to send them to an event where you can compete 2 vaults, whereas the mixed cup, you don't compete 2 vaults. So it makes sense to send a Nola Matthews there because no one needs her to vault. You just want to see her do, a floor routine about like a ghostly watchmaker from Prussia who's been possessed by a doll and has to like escape from a dungeon or something. What she was, as the Lord intended her to do. These are the things we need. So it makes sense.
I will have you know, Spencer, that I asked her what she thought of my interpretation of her routine and if I got the message or if she had a different story. And she said, it's whatever the story people want to come up with. So your dead watchmaker from a time machine is also accurate. But yeah, she did like my story that it was a AI robot doll come to life trying to steal your data.
Yeah.
Her works for Doge. I added that part at the end. But she.
But you didn't add the rest of it. The rest of it is factual.
The rest of it was 100% factual. Yeah. So I'm very excited. I'm happy to see the men going to so many World Cups. I wish that the women were going to more. The women are only going to 1 Spring World Cup, but the men are going to all of them, basically.
We always want more assignments.
Yeah.
Send everyone to everything.
But they are sending a ton of people to the DTB Mixed Cup. So that's nice. There's like 14 gymnasts going to that. Gymnastics is happening this week, and it's streaming on Web Diffusion. So if you want to watch the whole thing, you can. Where Kalia Nemor, not Kalia Lincoln, she's competing for LSU right now. It's in my mind, she's everywhere. In my mind, she's all over the world. Send her to all the World Cups, you guys. As soon as season is over, just send her around the world. But Nemor is competing. Athora is competing. It's always where you will see some good art, and the U.S. is sending some gymnasts there as well. Well, I'm just saying they're juniors.
Yeah,
I'm just saying you can also.
It's where you will see some art and also American gymnasts is basically what you said.
I didn't mean it like that.
But didn't you mean it? Didn't you?
I didn't. That's not. I didn't mean it in a disparaging way. I meant like, and if you want to rah for your country, you can. They're Americans. If you're an American listening, you can rah. This is what the people do still, right? There's a lot of rah-rahing. But not in Canada where they keep booing the American anthem. Listudova of Russia tore her Achilles. She has already had surgery, but she posted this on the Instagrams. Already had surgery same day. So she's looking forward to coming back. So the Achilles, just plan on to always have a spare because they don't last long when your entire sport is jumping, except for bars. Also, which Becky Downey posted on Instagram, how she, speaking of bars, she went in to get a labrum repair, and she was like, I felt fine. I had no problems. Like, I didn't even know I had this labrum thing. And then they were like, oh, and by the way, she had her ligament was gone. I can't remember if it was her rotator cuff or her bicep tendon. I think your bicep tendon usually goes when you have a labrum thing too. So anyway, she was like, oh, well, we'll fix that whole thing while you're in there. And she, like most gymnasts.
Come in for a full tune-up.
Right. Like most gymnasts, she was like, what? It's not attached here? But I've been doing all my routines. Like, what are you talking about? Because, yeah, gymnasts. Jessica Gadarova returned to competition at the British. She's not doing full routines like in beam. She didn't do a dismount, but has a lot of her base skills back. She's getting out there. This is a good sign. Remember, her sister Jennifer tore her ACL again, so was not competing. Ondine from the same gym who tore her ACL right before the Olympics.
The whole segment called British ACL News.
Except Charlotte Booth, who was her Achilles.
It was her
she's
Achilles,
in Club Achilles.
British ACL and Achilles.
We should make sparkle jackets for this, so you have something to look forward to when you're injured. Because being
I'm
injured
British
is so
and
depressing.
I have no ACL.
Here's my 3 timers club. Andrade has the most jackets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ondine did return to competition this week and competed on beam. And looks like
this was her second meet.
Oh,
in
second meet.
competition
That's
after
right.
the exhibition the week before. Yeah.
Yeah. And is she bouncier since her knees fixed?
I don't know.
Is she higher? Are her jumps better? I was like, Ondine, what? You lost nothing. All the hops. She still has them. Okay. Since you missed this, I'm not even going to ask you about it, Spencer. I'm just going to remind everyone.
I missed it.
That gymnastics
That's my jacket. That's my sparkle jacket. If it was on social media, I didn't see it.
It's sequins like those pillows, and it just says, I didn't, if it's on social media, I didn't see it. But then if you rub it up, it says, I don't care. That's the other underlying message. You know, the sequence reads 2 different directions, but this you will care about. So because gymnastics is for everybody, and this is Ansel Meadows-Rader, which is the coolest name. It may be Raider, but I'm going to say Radar. So he was born, it's a congenital amelia is what he has. So that's when you're not an amputee, but you're born without your lower limbs or whatever limb. And he competed on floor with blades. And he's good. He like press handstand from a sit, and he has really nice form. I'm very impressed that he won, obviously, floor. I don't know if you can tell, but also, do you see how he salutes? A very nice wrist position. That is what we like to see right there. Thank you for the art, Ansel. We appreciate you. Thank you for showing everybody that gymnastics is for everybody. NCAA news. Spencer.
We're getting down to it.
Yes. Let's talk about
exciting season. If you care about things like teams getting eliminated, which I sure do.
Let's talk about what has changed going into elimination season, and then I have some very, very important swimmers not wearing a lot of clothes news.
We only had one change at the top of the rankings, which is Florida moved up to 4th. They were 6th, so they moved ahead of Utah and Cal. All of our individual leaders remain the same this week. So Jade Carey is still the #1 all-arounder in the country. The trick called not competing, which, you know, it's a solid strategy. You can't lose ground if you didn't compete. But yeah, okay, so tell me about whatever you want to say, swimmers.
All right. So in swimmers and Speedos are everywhere news, there was because, you know, there's been a big controversy because people felt like they were upset that swimmers in their Speedos were at a gymnastics meet, and some people felt like this was super intimidating and it was like abusive to the gymnasts. And other people were like, have you never been to a college sporting event? Swimmers always show up with no clothes on. This is what they do. It's the strategy of how to win the sports. So this is swimmers at a Bucknell men's swim team causing havoc at the free throw line when a basketball player was doing the thing where you have to stand there by yourself and try to make a basket. And the swim team
explains the rules of basketball, our spinoff podcast.
It's the event finals part where you're alone and it's just you, but the rest of the teams get to stand around you to support you and trying to make sure that you get the ball in the basket.
That is why they're there, to support you.
So when you're doing this, you're looking straight at the crowd. And so the swimmers whipped their pants off, whipped their shirts off, and stood up in their Speedos and tried to distract the event finalist with the ball. And so the point of the story is just to be like, see, we told you guys this is just what swimmers do at college. Like college was invented for swimmers to do this. And I don't know if it worked because I didn't pay attention to whether or not the guy made the basket or not, but I did enjoy the comedy of this. So yeah, they do it to everyone. It's not just trying to intimidate women. Oh, it worked. He missed the basket. Thank you. Someone here who pays attention to the sports balls. Didn't even get close to the net. It was an air ball, as they call it. Yeah, that's like where you balk on vault, I think is what that is comparable to.
All right. Sure. Fine.
now that I've made you watch so many Instagrams, what else is happening in the NCAAs?
All right, so let's talk about some of the surprises of the season. We've just got 3 weeks to go until elimination season. So I also want to hear from you what some of your things you would not have picked. Like when we talked about the NCAA season at the end of December, at the beginning of January, things you would not have expected that have come true in the reality of college gymnastics. The first one for me, I would say, is LSU, Florida, and Utah having bigger season highs than Oklahoma with 3 weeks to go. I would not have picked that. It's by a smidge, but the fact that they all have 198 ones and Oklahoma has merely 198 O's is not something I would have picked, even though Oklahoma is ranked number 1, and being ranked number 1 for Oklahoma is something predictable and is not a surprise of the season. I think we're setting up a situation where we're heading toward the postseason with Oklahoma as the favorite, but not the level of prohibitive favorite they have been in the past, including last season when it didn't go their way in the semifinal. But it is closer. It's a lot closer than it has been in recent years, I think, among more teams that are contending for the national championship. So it's, that different dynamic is not what I would have picked. I thought it was going to be kind of Oklahoma and LSU running away as the top 2, which they are 1 and 2, but I wouldn't consider them running away from the rest of the group as well.
My surprise is Michigan State being an 8th, because I thought they would be much higher.
You thought they would be first.
I was like,
so Michigan State of your heart in first.
They're a top 5 minimum team. And Missouri being 7th is also, Missouri is so underrated. You guys remember what happened?
So where do you think Missouri? Because I feel like 7 is a really good ranking and is like an appropriate reward for being good to be ranked 7th. So you're like, no, it's Michigan State 1, Missouri 2, and everyone else in 95th place.
It's Missouri for the vibe, and vaults should be in more like the top 4, and Michigan State for the stickums, and the and the not having built-in deductions, clean, crispy.
That's why Jessica has a sticky note that says Michigan State is the green one, not the yellow and blue one, because you associate them with stickies.
Let me finish my genius analogy. Michigan State, watching them is like when you unwrap like a burger and the crinkly paper, it's like the crispy, crinkly paper, and then you take a bite. It's so satisfying. Yes.
So just to note, Jessica is describing Michigan State as a greasy piece of trash, is what you just said. That's what I heard.
For a Parisian French cheeseburger. The best cheeseburger I've ever had in my life. And fact checkers had it in his life in Paris. In fact, he went back to the restaurant twice and asked them, how did you make this burger? Because I want to make it at home. This is the best thing I've ever tasted in my life. How dare you call Parisian cheeseburgers trash? Spencer, this is why you don't see the brilliance of Michigan State the way I do. My God. Anywho. And I'm not taking anyone out of the top, obviously, because everyone deserves to tie and live their best lives and be happy. But I will say,
way tie for first.
There are some. I feel like there have been some gifts in the judging of the top teams.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, I think in pretty much all the top teams have had some gifts and some judging where we were like, but did you see her hip bend, bent knees, and hop? That's not a possible score. But at least they're collecting all the data. That's the important thing.
I would also add Denver being ranked in 18th as a surprise to me that they are that low. And specifically the surprise being the beam trebles they had through a lot of the season. It seems like these last few weeks they're finding their way and they're starting to get the scores and they're starting to hit and they've been moving up. But this is it's Denver on beam. And even though they don't have Jessica Hutchinson anymore, which is a big, she was like an automatic 9-9 plus on every event. So that's a big blow to the lineups. A lot of the roster is still intact from last season. And this is a team that's typically so good on beam, both in terms of lack of execution deductions and in terms of staying on the apparatus. The two big important parts of it. So that is something that has been really surprising to me this season. But we currently have Denver in 18th, which is outside of the seeded positions. The top 16 teams get seeded for regionals, and everyone else is geographically placed. And Denver is that team, and every year there's one of them. All of the top teams are like, if we could just start giving Denver a little higher scores, because I'd really regionals are hard enough to deal with without like an unseeded Denver sneaking into your regional semifinal. Right now, I would have Denver, if I'm doing the brackets, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, I would have Denver in the same semifinal as Florida and Auburn. And if I'm Auburn, I'm like, no, thank you. Only 2 teams advance, and I don't want to be with Florida and Denver. Could we make a change? Could I submit a change of bracket submission? So that is, it's something to watch. I think Denver has the capability, certainly, to move up into the top 16 and get seeded, but that is worth watching and has been surprising to me. In the positive zone, I would say teams that have overperformed my expectations, Georgia is definitely in that zone. Mm-hmm. Top 10 for the second straight week. They've been ranked in the top 10. And I don't think it's surprising that we've seen an improvement under the new coaching staff, which is not typical. Usually you have some a grace period where it's a brand new staff, but it's an experienced group. It's an exciting group. And I think we see that in the team as well, but they have improved faster than I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm excited for them because remember last year it was like, oh, they're going to make regionals. They're going to be fine. They're going to get back. And then they were just getting so good at the end of the season. They didn't make it. And so this year I feel like they will never let that happen again. Never. They're going to make it.
Alabama also
that's the biggest
contention for Battle Basement.
Yeah.
Is one of my biggest surprises this season because
Battle Basement,
Alabama.
Just so everybody knows, Battle Basement is the race for the last spot in the SEC championships.
Right.
Which
there are now 9 teams in the SEC conference that, because Oklahoma joined, there are 8 spots in the SEC championship. So the 9th ranked team in the conference isn't going to be able to compete in the conference championship. And it's kind of been Alabama, Arkansas neck and neck in the last couple of weeks. And the fact that Alabama is even in that conversation is a surprise given, it's Alabama. They were, one of the big 4 for many, many years and have a lot of national championships. And so to see them close to that zone is surprising. They had a really important result this past weekend. Sort of the update and the status is that Alabama has distanced themselves from Arkansas with their score last weekend, and Alabama has more meets remaining. So they're kind of in a pretty solid position and can maybe make Auburn a little nervous at this point. But the fact that they're even close to that is one of the surprises to me.
The one thing about it is Alabama has Gabby Gladio. How is this happening? I don't even understand. But
Any team with Shania Adams should not even be close to this conversation.
God, you guys, if you there's a little gymnast who you hear them thinking or saying you can't do gymnastics, you're too tall. Please have them visit the beauty of gymnastics that is Shania Adams and acquaint them with her gymnastics and be like, see, it doesn't matter. Gymnastics is for everybody. BODY. 2 separate words. Everybody. That is it. Okay. So I lost my train of thought because I was so passionate about making the point. But the thing the thing that's kind of exciting about this year is I want there to be no dynasties. I want there to be a different team winning every single year. And so I like that it's kind of there's sort of a shakeup. It's not a huge shakeup, but it's a little bit of a shakeup. And it's more of a shakeup in the, the bottom, below 7th, below 6th is more of a shakeup. But I think that's very good. And I still expect Stanford to just Stanford, too, out of the blue at the last second and be like, we don't bother studying until finals. We're not going to waste our time on this. We're learning to code AI robots that will go to the moon and solve climate change. So we are just going to show up at this meet and win it when it matters. Thank you very much.
Well, that I will actually say is maybe another one of my surprises, that it only took Stanford one meet to get good this season.
Yeah.
Because usually the trajectory for Stanford is like, we're going to start and maybe not have a bars lineup in the first meet, and we're going to get a couple 194s, and we're going to be ranked really low, and then we're going to ruin your life once it gets to the postseason. They kind of got it together quickly this year. And the same is true for UCLA. They had a low score at that Oceanside meet in the first week, and then they kind of got it together after that. So we haven't seen the traditional slow starters start that slowly this year. Like UCLA is ranked 3rd right now, which is, it makes sense based on the talent of the lineups, but that's often been the case when UCLA is ranked like 9th because they started so slowly.
Right, because UCLA is known
they're
for
ranked in a way that is justifiable for their talent, and that often doesn't happen.
Yep. UCLA is known for splat festing, especially on their last pass on floor at the beginning of the seasons. But then that stopped happening when Jordan Weber, Lebanese spelling with the Y, took over. He's Lebanese. That's what it's for. Jordan.
Oh, okay.
As in the Middle East, Jordan. Her mom has told me all about it. I've had the full family history. So very proud Lebanese family. Now I've lost my train of thought because Rita is so entertaining, and you would just love her. And you wonder where people get the energy to do elite gymnastics, and then you meet their parents and you're like, oh my God, you could run several countries and do push-ups and like write an essay behind your back at the same time. So anywho, the point is that, conditioning. So they haven't been, but that first meet was a total mess. Cause remember the bars fell down and the floor was upside down and
the judges had read the code of points. That was so weird.
There was that. Yeah.
Another surprise for me is that Washington might miss their home regionals. They're currently ranked. Okay, so it's a maybe. They're currently ranked 37th, 36 teams advanced, so they're right on the bubble, and definitely have the capability, looking at the scores that they're still counting, to right things. But that Washington has had that much of a dip is surprising to me. The reasons, it doesn't take Nancy Drew to figure out. Their head coach, Jen Llewellyn, took the Iowa job. Their best gymnast, Skylar Killer-Wilhelm, transferred to Kentucky. Like, it's pretty straightforward as to why they might have a dip, but I did not expect them to be in trouble for making it to regionals.
Same. That's really, really surprising.
So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, they don't even need like big, huge scores. They need like a nice high 195 just to move it up, which is very much within their capability, but hasn't happened too often yet so far this season. They're still counting some 194s, which is surprising to me. On the other side, North Carolina is up at 24th. And this is a team that for many years, certainly ever since Dana Durante took over, you're always surprised that they're not ranked higher than they are, because you look at the talent of the team and you look at the talent of the gymnasts and you're like, you shouldn't be maybe not going to make regionals or not making regionals when you look at Lali Dekanoidze, when you look at, all those years with Elizabeth Colton on beam, and we were talking about like, that's how you do a cat leap. That's how you have form. That's what we're looking for on beam. They have these star gymnasts, and for many years, they either are just making it to regionals or just missing out. And we're seeing them not even on the bubble this year. They're in a pretty safe position in 24th. And that's a big improvement for them. And a drastic improvement even over last season. And if it ended up this way, this would be their best result since 2006 if they were to finish 24th. So it's a huge boost, a huge journey upward for North Carolina.
Iowa State.
Yeah, okay. I want to talk about, what are your thoughts on Iowa State? Because they're in 41st.
I know, which is like very upsetting, because I remember like watching them this season. I was like, oh my God, their beam. It's so great. It's also so crispy. This is my favorite kind of beam. And yeah, they're like currently out of regionals in 41st. So maybe it's a time when they're, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. But I did not expect this with Iowa State. I blame Trump.
Yes, obviously. Okay, so we kind of talked about regionals and some of the possibilities. I want to do some bracketology, talk about where things would stand with the regionals draw if the season ended today, and I want to get your thoughts on it. So if the season ended today, we would have one regional. Jessica is smirking at me, by the way, if you're not watching this, in a deeply condescending way. And I would like her to retract that condescending smirk right now so I can talk about the regionals draw.
I just love Spencer's bracketology so much. And I love that you're like, when you get so passionate about things like brackets, and it just makes me so happy.
We spent a long time talking about news, and I was like, all right, let's get moving around here. Let's get to the stuff I'm interested in.
I want a t-shirt about this. I want also you have a sequin pillow that says Spencer's bracketology with a spreadsheet on it. Yeah. I'm sure one of our listeners is already crocheting something, whipping it up right now, as I mentioned. But anyway, could we please talk about the bracket, Spencer?
Thank you. Okay, so if the season ended right now, one regional would have Oklahoma, Michigan State, Kentucky, and Arkansas. And potentially with Michigan also in there, because right now they would be unseeded, which is also one of, like we were saying about Denver, one of those like, I would be scared to have Michigan. One regional would have LSU, Missouri, Georgia, and Minnesota. One would have UCLA, Cal, Oregon State, and Alabama, and that would be at Alabama. One would have Florida, Utah, Stanford, and Auburn. That would be at Utah. So probably that would also have an unseeded Denver team because of geographical placement. They would be closest to Utah. So what I want to know from you is, what is the regional of these that you would least want to be placed in? You're a head coach of one of these teams. What one do you not want, with only two of the teams advancing from each regional?
Oof, this is the thing. I'm looking at the UCLA, Cal, Oregon State, Alabama, and on the one hand, I'm like, oh, that one's going to be, that could potentially be super close. On the other hand, I really like it because I really enjoyed last year when Jade Carey, while her other teammates were competing, was walking around throwing her arms up, being like, well, it's over. It's over. That's it. We're out. It's over. She was just stating the facts. Yeah. The other one,
I wouldn't want to be placed with a home Alabama.
Yeah.
That would be scary to me.
Yeah. Also, this is the thing, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Kentucky, Arkansas, with maybe Michigan. It's like the Michigan State, Kentucky, Arkansas are all very close together. Like this could potentially be really, really close, when I feel like Michigan State and Kentucky are literally ranked 8 and 9 right now. But I feel like Kentucky has like some great standout gymnasts, but Michigan State I feel like is cleaner across the board. But then you don't know. It's like, do you believe in yourself? That could go either way. Do you believe?
I like that you are really adopting the character. You're getting into character. I said you were a head coach of one of these teams.
I already have. So, oh my God, in College and Cocktails, we were talking about how Jordan Weber has invented the SEC maternity power suit and how it looked fantastic. And we're obsessed with this now. And we need it branded. We need who needs to jump on this right away? Some hero designer needs to make these. Because I would totally buy one of those. I only have my one purple blazer. That's it. I need all the suits.
And then every year someone asks you, like, does this mean you're picking LSU to win because you're wearing a purple blazer?
And I'm like, it's my favorite color. Look at my 3rd grade notebooks. I've always loved purple. Also, it's in our logo. So long story short, what I'm saying is the LSU, Missouri, Georgia, Minnesota, that's going to be, I feel like that's a power blazer.
Yeah. Missouri and Georgia, if they're like fighting for the 2nd spot with LSU, would be an intense one. That would be very interesting to me. But we will see, as the caveat that these teams are ranked really close, especially when we are in this like 9 through 16 group, and this is all going to change each week. But then we do it again, and we re-talk about it.
We will bracketology so hard so many times.
Yes. So on this note, Linzer's had a question that I want to get to because it's regarding regionals brackets. Going by previous years, only the top 16 teams are seeded for regionals, and the rest are grouped in theory by geographic proximity to a host school. How is it decided? What is funny?
You said proximity.
I don't understand.
Like, instead of proximity, you said pricksimity, which is.
Oh.
And I feel like you just pommel hard, and I'm enjoying it very much, Spencer. Oh, proximity.
The question is, how is it decided which group goes to which regional site if more than one host team is not in the top 16? Additionally, how is it decided which regional sites are Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and which ones are Thursday, Friday, Sunday? Okay, so for groups that don't have a host seeded to go into them, the priority goes to the top-ranked team or the highest-ranked team. So right now we'd have the UCLA, Cal, Oregon State, Alabama group would go to Alabama. Florida, Utah, Stanford, and Auburn would go to Utah. So the Oklahoma and LSU regionals wouldn't have a seeded host. So geographic proximity would go to Oklahoma because they're seeded higher. Though it's not really an advantage because the two remaining hosts are Penn State and the University of Washington, neither of which are close to Oklahoma. But I guess so Penn State's closer to Oklahoma than Seattle, right? I'm not making a fool of myself. I might be making a geographic fool of myself, but I think Norman, Oklahoma is closer to Penn State than it would be to Seattle.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Oklahoma's. Yes.
Yeah, because everything's closer together over on the other side.
It is so close together.
That's how you know geography. That's what geography is. So they would go to the Penn State regional, and then LSU's group would go to the University of Washington. So it's the higher ranked team gets the benefit of a closer regional, even though neither of them are close in this case. In terms of how it's decided who competes on what day, I think it's just like availability because they just sort of announce it. I don't know if there's a system that says like, oh, it has to be these teams. But this year, the Penn State and Utah regionals are the ones that start on Wednesday, and the Alabama and Washington regionals are the ones that start on Thursday. And if you're super interested in all these things, the NCAA publishes the pre-championships manual, which is on their website, that has all the rules and how things are picked and how individuals qualify and all of that. So if you're a dork like me, you can download and read that.
And they will.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are going to buy the Spencer's Bracketology shirt. What should the image be on the Spencer Bracketology?
I don't know, you smirking or something?
I just love seeing your joy, Spencer. Is that so wrong?
You so rarely get it because we're talking about, like, you know, whatever you like to talk about. Feelings? I don't know.
Oh, Norman to Penn State's only 1,200 miles. Super close. Just FYI for everybody doing the distance math at home.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about corrupt
to see if I got something wrong. Desperately.
I'm sure you did. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, Oklahoma's closer to the East Coast, but is it like right in the middle? But also, I mean, they're both high up, but Seattle's not as high.
Seattle's out there.
Yes, it's very high up. It's basically Canada, if you didn't know. It's only because we used to drive from Seattle to Canada all the time to Vancouver. Norman, it's very close. Norman to Seattle, 2,000 miles. So you are correct. Penn State would be the closer regional. Spencer, as usual.
And Jessica has created the new slogan for the city of Seattle. It's just, we're almost Canada, right?
Basically,
can we just be Canada? Just scoop a little bit lower.
Adopt us, please. Okay. Corrupt or correct? Where
do you have some corrupt or corrects for me?
Yes,
I'm very excited.
Let us begin by taking a look at the first Vault 10 of the entire season. That's right. It's week 9, and we just now got the first 10 of the season. What you're seeing on your screen, if you're doing a watch along right now, is Kiana Abram of UC Davis, who did an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous 1.5, stuck, cold, not moving for a 9.95. And now we're going to look at the 10 for Selena Harris at Florida on Friday night, the first 10 of the season, and compare and contrast. Spencer, what do you see from Selena's vault?
It's kind of, and we talked about this on College and Cocktails, it is a really nice vault, and what I appreciate about this is the absolute stickitude. That it's not a like, I'm going to bounce a little bit up in place and then the commentator's going to say, what a great stick. And we're all going to be watching and be like, because you didn't like stick. It's a great stick. I would say there's a little bit of bent knees and a little bit of hip angle here that you would deduct for. If college gymnastics were really also doing like lots of deductions, you maybe have a shoulder angle here, but that oftentimes also does not get deducted. So those are the things I'm seeing.
Yeah. So I think the thing is, in general, I mean, this is the problem that we're seeing and why there is a need for judging oversight committee within the NCAA is because this doesn't make sense. Like Selena's vault is great. It's not a 10. Kiana Abrams, I would say, has less deductions, especially in the air. She has straighter hips, straighter knees, same kind of stick, more distance, and got a lower score. So... yeah.
And it's also one of those things where the scores, I think with the Harris 10, the scores before influence it. Like Victoria Wynn got a 9975 for a vault that was very nice. We love seeing her in the lineup, but it was not a stick. And so once Harris goes, you've judged yourself into a corner. And I think they had to give it a 10 because they had already gone almost as high as you can go. And one judge gave a 10 to a vault, and this one's better. Like Selena's vault is better than the one that another judge had already given a 10 to. And that's how things can escalate in a way where the routine is not actually just being judged on its own merits, but judged on the score you gave 3 vaults ago.
Yep. Do you have an award that you would like to give out?
Oh, my most satisfying thing that happened this week, my Judging with Guts award to the beam judges at the Maryland quad, the Big Four quad meet, who were just like, oh, I don't care if our judging means that no one's getting a usable score from this meet. We're gonna do it how we see it and give 9.6s to hits. And I felt so safe. I felt understood. I felt seen. I felt warm and fuzzy. It was great.
I felt like this was remember that time in the judges meeting where they showed the perfect routine that Nora Flatley did, and they were like, yeah, that should be a 9.6. That's how we want you to judge. And then the judges started judging that way, and then all the coaches were like, burn this whole place down. This is not correct. The Maryland judges were like, no, we are doing exactly what you said is a 9.6. And I'm not saying all those beam routines are perfect. I'm saying a 9.6 is a score that's available to you to give. And it's also a very good score. 9.6 is amazing. Yeah. Okay. We have time for one letter today, I think.
I think we have
Feedback?
time for a couple.
Okay.
Let's look.
If
On
you have...
the topic of scores, I'm just going to go through. I'm
Okay, I was just going to tell people how they could send them in. We have a forum at gymcastic.com. You can email us, gymcastic@gmail.com. Okay, go ahead, Spencer.
Sarah has a question about Brooklyn Moore's floor routine. One of our favorite topics, so we'll go right there. I'm greatly enjoying your podcast and look forward to it each week. I wanted to ask about Brooklyn Moore's floor routine. Her middle pass, which is beautiful, seems a bit on the easier side. Does it fulfill the requirements? And if so, how? Or does the rest of her routine have enough difficulty that it doesn't need to?
Do you mean her round off layout step out?
Yes, that is referring to her middle pass. Because she does a front double full, front tuck, round off layout step out side pass, and then a Rudy final pass. So this is just a question about, why would you do just a layout step out? The answer is the rest of her routine gets her enough bonus, her 6/10 of bonus to be at a 10-0 start, but she needs to do the layout step out so that she doesn't get the 1/10 deduction for not having a backward acro element in her routine. So if she didn't do that, the highest score she could possibly get is a 9.9 because she would get a 1/10 deduction for not having a backward acro element. That strategy is usually not advisable, I would say, for most human gymnasts, because you want your requirements to be fulfilled by things that are also getting bonus so that you're minimizing the number of elements you can do that can be deducted. I think that strategy doesn't really apply to Brooklyn Moore's in this case because there's no world in which she would get a deduction on this layout step out because it's like what you would pick as the example of how a layout step out should look. So it's fine. It's good strategically because it fulfills the requirement and who's going to deduct for that. Most of the time you won't see gymnasts doing that because it feels like you're adding just a deduction trap into a routine.
Yeah. And this
it's
is
why when you have perfect form, it gives you more options for both artistry and skill selection, because you don't have to worry about trying to work the code as much as possible.
I do not want to hear, listen, all of you, I don't want to hear any complaints if Brooklyn Moores, as she should, becomes the national floor champion or ties for someone equally worthy, who I can't think of anyone right now, but I'm sure there's someone will come to me later. Because she only has a 2-pass floor routine.
Well, she has a 3-pass floor routine. It's just one of her passes a layout step out.
Right, and it's more gorgeous than anyone's ever done it, except Nadia. So I would just like to say, if you have a problem with her not having 3 passes, then you dance like she does. And when you've proven you can do that with that energy, the cardio to dance like she does and tumble, then we can talk about your extra pass. I don't want to see any.
And then they're going to talk to you about appeal to authority logical fallacies.
First of all, Spencer, nobody needs that right now. So anyway, it is more important to have art and dance and expression and to do something besides show off your personality. You need to tell a story.
Smiling all the time, which is nothing.
Which, has there been any more important time to show the pain of a nation on floor? And of course, a Canadian. I think you said
pain of an ancient this time, which I also love a floor routine. But the pain of an ancient.
Of course, a Canadian had to come down from the Great North and show the mirror to all of us right now of the pain. So, anywho, you guys, I just don't want to hear it, because 3 hard tumbling passes or whatever, or 2 hard ones and 1 super easy front tumbling pass that you've been doing since you were a level 5 does not equal what she's doing. So I just want to preempt any arguments. Thank you very much. Sabotage.
Okay. Sarah says, I know one of Jessica's favorite topics is sabotage. And yesterday, I attended the Springfield College home meet against Southern Connecticut and Rhode Island College. Southern started on beam and had a few falls. In rotation 2, Rhode Island College went to beam, and about halfway through, a girl was doing her routine, and to my horror, one end of the beam dropped on her. The Springfield men's team quickly left the stands and went to get a replacement beam, and the beam was swapped out. Rhode Island College resumed their rotation and ended up with their highest team total ever on beam and a new record for their program overall. Thanks for all the coverage. Listening to the podcast is always a highlight of my week.
Thank you, Sarah.
Whoa.
So I just want to make sure everyone knows the beam did not fall from the ceiling on top of her. Either maybe the tightener thing was stripped, like a giant screw that you tighten and loosen to raise and lower the beam. It was stripped, or it wasn't in tight enough. So she was standing on a level beam, and then suddenly she was standing on a beam that was lower on one side than the other. Is what I'm imagining happened here, which we have seen happen in competitions before. This should not happen.
No.
They would send this back to the manufacturer or send that part back and be like, this should not be able to happen. Although, the beams that we had in the gyms that I did gymnastics in growing up, those beams were like 30 years old. You could have slid on your stomach down the beam like a slip and slide. That's how smooth the leather was from 30 years of feet. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was stripped. But how very kind of the men's team to spring to action and get another beam. But now I suspect they wanted all the spotlight on them, saving the day. So
you think it was the men's team that sabotaged it?
Yes, they wanted to be like, look at us. Oof,
but
okay.
Were they wearing Speedos? That's the question.
College and Cocktails starts Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. We are watching Michigan versus Oklahoma, and then 7 p.m. Pacific afterwards. Special guest will join to discuss the meet with Spencer. And remember that your fantasies are locking on Wednesday. So just do all your fantasies by Tuesday, you guys. That's what I'm telling you, because it's like 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, which is basically Tuesday night. So do your fantasies on Tuesday. Also, the drink this week is clutch AF. Clutch as fuck. That is the drink. So I expect everyone to make the mocktail or cocktail at home and enjoy it. And remember, you can add all the College and Cocktails to your calendar. And you don't have to join us live for College and Cocktails. You can add it to your favorite podcast player. The instructions are in every show post or on the forum. Say hi to me if you're going to be in Boston at the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. Please remember to
on gay, split on rights.
Gay rights. Gay rights.
take up on gay, split on rights. Thanks for listening. And Spencer will see you on College and Cocktails. Thanks for listening.